Motion Friend here. In this video I'll be showing you how to model in Cinema 4D Lite. So let's open up Cinema 4D Lite and get cracking. What we're going to do is we're going to build a rocket using these tools up here, which are basic modeling tools in Cinema 4D Lite, and also these vector tools which are used for creating shapes. Start off with, we're going to start with a circle, and that's going to be the base. We're going to rotate it around 90 degrees using the R key and the shift key to constrain it, and then we're going to use the loft tool. We're going to drag our circle into that, and that will create the base. We're going to duplicate that by holding control, and we're going to lift it up a bit. There we go. And that's going to be the top of the rocket. We'll just put it back into the loft. There we go. And we're going to shrink it down a bit, so we've got a bit more of a rocket shape. Now, when we're doing that, we're not quite getting the shape we want, so we need multiple lofts. So just for example, I want the top to be not quite pointy, but something like that. The bottom, I want a bit more, less of a traffic cone. So what I'm going to do is actually add more circles. So I'm going to add another one in, and that will give me a bit more of a rockety shape. And the bottom, I want a little bit more like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Wasn't what I was intending, but maybe we'll roll with that. I'll leave that on there. So now we have this sort of shape. We have like a little bit of an indent at the top. We might make a little cap for it in a minute. So we'll just call this the main body. And what we might also do is add some fins and other things on it. So just for example, I'm going to use the circle. Again, this one's going to be more of a window, and I'm going to put that on the side. So I'm just going to shrink that down using the T key again. There we go. And I'll put it right about there, I think. And it's going to be a multi-bit window. So just for example, I'm going to use the extrude tool, which is good for making flat shapes. Like if you wanted like a little cylinder. So I'll just put that inside of there. There we go. There's a cylinder. And we can change the way that it looks. So just for example, I'm going to click on extrude. I want a cap on it. And we might just smooth out the cap a little bit so it doesn't look as hard. And also we're going to change how big it is. So just for example, I want it to be about this big. And maybe we'll scale it up a bit and put it back on the body. There we go, something like that. We might have to rotate it around just because of the way we've built it. So I'll just rotate him a little. There we go. And now we have a viewing window. What I might do is actually have like an inner hole in it as well. So what we'll do for that is I'm going to make another one. And I'm going to shrink it down a bit. That one's going to be my viewing hole. There we go. There we go. So you can see inside of said rocket. Now, what you could do is start adding details. So you could add like little screws using the same method around your rocket, but just for example, I'm going to add more fins and that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is draw something with the spline pen instead of drawing it manually, or you can use other tools in here if you want. That's up to you. Just for me, I'm going to use the spline pen. I'm going to click the middle mouse button to go into my 3 views, just so I can see my rocket, and I'm going to draw a spline. So just for example, on the right hand view, I'm going to click once, click twice, click like that, and now we have a bit of a fin shape. So maybe we'll put those on the bottom. Now if I wanted to smooth this out so they're less pointy, I could do that, and I could use the spline arc tool. So if I grab maybe along here, I could actually add a bit of bend, Same with here, if I want to add a little bit of bend. There we go. Alright, so once we've got that, I'm going to click my middle mouse button again. And you'll notice it's a bit big, but we'll fix that in a minute. Now, I'll probably use the extrude tool again, mainly because, whoops, I added a couple by accident. I'll use the extrude tool again, and I'm going to drag my spline into it, and that will make me a big old fin. And the reason I did that is because I want to control the cap again, so I just want like a bit of a smooth cap. And is that doing it to both sides? Yes, it is. And we'll call this one the fin. Now we haven't named our other objects, so we might do that as well. So these two are the windows. And this one's a fin. So we'll just shrink the fin down till he's the right size. Maybe we'll put him something like that. We'll just move him so he's a little bit centered. And design wise, I'd actually like the window a little higher, but just for the demo, I'm going to leave it where it is. We're going to duplicate our fin, so we're going to control click like that. Use the R key to rotate it, and we're going to rotate it using shift. Whoops. And rotate it on the green axis. There we go. So I want one on each side. So I might just center him up, and I might just click my middle mouse button again just to see if I'm in the middle. There we go. Just move it to the middle. And we might do the same for the other two fins. So we might just duplicate it again, rotate it by 90 degrees. There we go. And we'll do the same for the last fin. So I'll just grab this guy again. And we'll rotate him around 90 degrees. Now he's not quite in the center as compared to the other one, so I'll just drag him over the top of the other one in the right hand view. Then we pretty much have our rocket. It's a pretty basic rocket, but we could add more detail to it if we want. And we might actually do that because I think it'll look better. So we might add some more screws and stuff. So we might copy one of the windows and call that a screw. And we'll lift him up. And we'll add, I'll just shrink him down a bit. Just so we've got some detail on him. And then we might rotate him around a bit because he's not quite sitting right. He's not quite sitting flat. There we go. Might just pop him in there. And you can see that it's not quite sitting properly yet. That's okay. We'll fix it in a second. There we go. So now we have sort of like a big screw, I think. And maybe we'll add a cap to the top because it does look kind of silly with this little wobbly bit in here. But hey, we'll add a cap. So to do that, we're going to grab all these, hit Option G. So hit Option G to group them all, and we'll call this a rocket. And any new parts we'll put inside of that. We'll create the cap now, and we'll drag the cap up. We're going to do the same thing as we did before. Rotate it 90 degrees. Shrink it down a bit. And this cap, I might use the extrude for this one. Let's see, extrude. There we go. And now we have our cap. Now the cap, I'm going to click on the word extrude and just change the shape of it. So I want a bit of a bevel on it. And I want something a bit more like that. So it's just got a round cap on it. Now we might actually even add a little bit more detail. Put that one in there. Call that one cap. We might duplicate the cap and just change it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is scale it down slightly. So now we've got a little bit more of a crazy head on the top. There we go. Now we've got our basic rocket. Other tools you can use for modeling, which I haven't shown here, are in here. So there's lathe, there's loft, there's sweep, and they work a bit like this. So I might just do this off to the side so we don't disrupt our rocket. So just for example, I'm going to grab an arc. There we go. And I'm going to use the lathe on it. So the lathe will spin it round on its axis. So just for example, if I grab the lathe and chuck the arc in it, you get something that looks a bit like a vase. And if you move the arc around, it will rotate it around the axis. So just to show that a bit better, I'm going to move it over here. Now if I rotate the arc around, whoops, you will see what will happen. So the lathe is good for creating like bottles or things like that. I could have actually created the rocket out of that, but I didn't, so there. What else do we have? We also have the loft. So the loft works a bit like this. So if I grab a circle and another circle, just going to shrink it down and put them in the loft, it will do something a bit like this. So the loft is good if you want to create objects a bit like this. That's kind of what the loft is for. Lastly, we have the sweep. So the sweep actually works a little different. It actually needs two objects. So just for example, I'm going to create a tube. So I'm going to use an arc. I'm going to move that over here. I might just rotate it up. And we also might use an end side. So that's like a shape a bit like this, like a hexagon, and I'm going to shrink it down just so it's a bit more obvious. So what it'll do when we put it inside of the sweep, it'll do something a bit like this. Oops. There we go. So as you can see, if I rotate it around, everything is projected onto the arc, and the end side will be the actual shape. Now you could replace this end side with any object and it'll keep the same shape. So just for example, I maybe want a star, and I put that in instead of the end side. I'll just delete the inside and put it in like that. Now you have something projected a bit like that. So that's what all the different modeling tools do. Anyway, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.